Okay, if you're watching this video, you know what we're looking at here. These are Holley 4000s, one of the most controversial carburetors Ford ever made. Early 50s, the last year was 1957 when you had these larger versions here that were used in the supercharged 312, and then also you had these, kind of the 2x4 setup, 56 over the counter and 57 from the factory we call the E code. Now let me give you my 5 best tips on working on these carburetors. Tip number 1 has to do with the fuel pressure. You've got to be careful about the fuel pressure that goes up to this carburetor. It is extremely sensitive. A lot of us will put an FE fuel pump on our Y block, or we'll put a late model Holley or whatever it might be. You don't want to really go over 4 PSI or you will overcome the needle and seat. This is very important. That leads me to tip number 2. Tip number 2 is to buy yourself the better float valve from Daytona Parts in Daytona, Florida. I'll leave a link in the description for you there, but that's a great upgrade to this. That way you can use anything you want. Electric pump. It'll take several PSI and not leak. It does well. Leads me to the second part of tip number 2. 2B, I guess. 2A was the better float valve from Daytona. 2B is this. Instead of using that fiber washer that comes in the kits, use an O-ring. Just get one of these O-ring kits here. Use an O-ring on this brass fitting. You're going to be guaranteed a seal right here at the top of your fuel bowl. These things are prone to leak. Number 3 is that you do want to ensure that your secondaries are operating correctly. Now, let me show you a couple video clips to make sure that what's going on with your economizer valve. Underneath, let me show you what that is. This is the economizer valve. It sits upside down here underneath, and let's take a look at how to test to make sure this is working properly. There is a seal under here. This gasket holds the vacuum, and what you do is you basically, on a 55 model, you'll take your thumb, you'll take your thumb and place it over this hole here at the back of the lid. Hold this down. Get thumb over there, sealing off that passage, and then see if it will hold. It's holding. If I release my thumb, you can tell it pops out. Now, why is that important? There is a power valve right down there, and you see that little spring-loaded tip down there. That's what this plunger is acting against right there. That flat piece. And of course, when the vacuum drops and you need more juice, that's going to open up and feed your secondaries. Now, what's not really well seen in that last video is that there is a small tit there. You can see it. It's a plunger, spring loaded, and this plunger here is kind of operating against that power valve to open it or to close it, and this is by vacuum. That's why it's important to test your lid before you get this carburetor back together to ensure that these are working properly. Tip number 4 would be your actual secondary tubes and ensuring that you do not cut your O-rings, that when you stake your washers, you're ready to go. I've got some other footage here on the channel or on my website that kind of shows you how to get these washers, these O-rings staked in there well so that you have no leaks. But what you want to do when you get this back together is go ahead and test that your secondary tubes are not leaking by doing this. All right, so let me show you how you can check the secondaries here. What you're going to have to do, crack the primers a little bit, and then hit your secondary butterflies, and you ought to be able to hear a little bit of a suction. I know I got the fan going right now and some stuff, but let's see what happens when we do that. You can hear that, go back. Get those secondaries like that, that tells you that fuel's been fed up through those lines. So this is set pretty good. I'm pretty happy, and we'll get this back to the Thunderbird mechanic, and he'll probably make some final adjustments because of the choke setting, fast idle, all of that, and maybe just a little bit on his mixture screws. But this is pretty much set to go here, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Of course, I did add this for my air cleaner because this is made for a T-bird, of course, in that upside down bowl. But anyway, she's ready to go. Tip number 5, and boy, we're getting quickly moving on here. I've got more tips than this. But anyway, I encourage you, if you can, to upgrade to an electric choke. I've got some footage on this with this Holley 4000 especially. It's kind of easy to set up. It works a whole lot better than the thermostatic choke. You can tell that right here there's two holes, or bosses, for two screws that would hold a guard around this choke to keep it from cooling off and then reactuating and all the rest of that. But I really think this style of choke is an upgrade from the thermostatic choke that just hooks with basically what would be down here, a tube that goes to your intake manifold in 1956 that would feed off the exhaust heat. The problem is that tube that runs the length of that intake manifold for the exhaust passages has a tendency to deteriorate over time, draw in carbon, and fouls up your choke and everything else. Really kind of finicky to deal with, so you do want to watch out for that. If you have a 55 model like this, you know that your choke is actually going to be hooked to an arm where the choke itself is sitting on the intake manifold, and the levers here, the action is kind of off of that setup from the intake instead of being hooked to the carburetor itself on the base. Hey guys, a real quick commercial here. Give us just a minute. I want to tell you about these two thick manuals that I have for sale on the website, and also the engine manual from Ford. Hang on. Hey guys, Rod Reverend here. I've got the best option for you, the best way you can spend $20 on your project if you own a 1949 to a 1959 Ford passenger car, and that is this. I've got both of these manuals. Now, these are almost 1,000 pages long. These are the Ford parts manuals. Now, this edition is 1964. I've got the text catalog that has all of the part numbers, what the parts are named, what they're called. It's all organized very well. And then, of course, I've also got the book that has all of the illustrations in it. This is for everything: body parts, mechanicals, trim. A lot of questions get answered by these books, and the great, wonderful thing about this is that what you can do, you can print this off online. Let me show you how this works here on the website. What you do is you go to the website here. I'll take you through the process. You see the listing here on my website, hotrodreverend.com, in the shop. When you click on this and you determine, hey, I'm going to buy this, you pay 20 bucks. What happens is you get a link that is sent to you to download these files. Now, I've got more than just these two books. I'll talk about that in a minute. But you get these books. These are the anchors. These are the best part, I guess I should say, of getting this. So what happens is you download all the files with that link. It's a zip file. That means it's compressed. You have to unzip it, put it in a folder on your computer so you can access it later on. Now, these are both in what's called a PDF. Basically, that means this is organized, and what you can do is just scroll through the pages, and you can click on any page you want. You can zoom in, zoom out. The wonderful thing about this is that instead of using original manuals and paying a hefty price and dirtying up different things or whatever you might need, is real bulky, you can just print off the page that you need, take this with you to the garage, and work on whatever you want. When you're done, take the paper and just throw it away. It's not a problem. Secondly, if you're going to a swap meet, this is just invaluable information here. What you can do is print off a page of part numbers that you might need, and you can use these part numbers as a reference. If you need illustrations, of course, you can print those off. But again, once you're done with this, hey, just take it and throw it away. It's not a problem. You don't have to worry about ruining or damaging your original manuals because you now got it in a digital file format. Also included in this download is Ford's late 50s engine manual. Now, there are a lot of pages to this, and you can see here, I think there's almost 100 or so. I'll put this up here on the screen for you. This is just a sample page at the beginning. You've got the 6-cylinder, of course, that's in this. You've got the early FE engine that's in this, and of course what we feature here on hotrodreverend.com and on the channel is the Y block as well. These are very good pages, specifics, updates, both in these manuals from 1964 and also in the engine manual. Also in the download are a lot of pictures, a lot of freebies, a lot of other things. There's some Paxton McCulloch information on there, the supercharger. There's the overdrive transmission, the 3-speed overdrive, the Borg Warner, and the 259s and the T85s that came out there in the 50s. There's some great information on that. Lots of tech that you can download and print off whatever you need. I guarantee you this is the best way to spend $20 on your project in the garage. You can't go wrong by getting a hold of these digital files. Buy them today. I know I'm giving some quick tips. I'm over number 5, so here's just some bonuses. Here's the next bonus. You've got to make sure that you've got the appropriate stud that fits down into your fuel bowl. Ford, for some reason, this is a 24 threads per inch stud. The top is 1/4 20. A lot of guys don't think about that. They don't realize it. They'll booger up the fuel bowl and have to get another one. Bear that in mind when you rebuild these carburetors. A 55 especially has to have this washer over top of the vents that are there. But incoming air and everything else from your air cleaner here, that's to watch out for the turbulence. This is not needed on a 56. A little bit different design. Also, you have to ensure that under here, that bushing is sealed off with the vacuum. That's so important to remember here. This stud actually helps seal some of the vacuum. Use a copper washer or fiber washer supplied in the kit. While we're running through this very quickly, you'll notice that there's only 2 places where you can attach your linkage. This is the linkage for your accelerator pump. Notice that there's a hole in the rod. That's because this is vented. This fuel bowl is vented to outside air, hence the holes up top, so on and so forth. But these 2 holes here, the middle hole basically would have been used in a time, maybe you think about summer or higher elevations, whatever it might be, where there's not such a need to give a huge squirt of fuel. The outside hole where the arm's going to swing further, that's the hole that you need to use to give you the best shot of fuel. You do want to ensure that you've got fuel coming out of your, you can see it in there, barely see it right in the middle of the screen, your nozzles on either side, squirting into your primaries. Last thing to say about these carbs is this, just a quick tip, is you want to make sure that since everything's very sensitive here, most carbs are, but especially the Holley 4000, is that we're paying attention to our butterflies and how they seat. Ensure that they seat fully when you're rebuilding this carburetor, both the secondaries and the primaries. Do not remove the butterflies unless you really, really have to. Take the screws off, but boy, you want to make sure you see no daylight coming back through the other side. These are really good carburetors if you watch what you're doing, you take your time, you read some manuals, watch some videos online. But you can see here in this little test run how well this 55 carburetor performed after I rebuilt it here in the shop. But you'll find the idle will climb a little bit. And since this is a 55 and I don't have a choke set to this, probably got the idle a little bit high because it's cold. It may want to play with that idle setting. But yeah, secondaries open up just fine. Pretty clean. Okay, one last tip and I'll be done here. Sorry, just more bonus. But this is the boot of the fuel bowl that attaches right in there. I've got my thumb and my forefinger around it and attaches to the base. Obviously, I've got this one upside down here, so it would sit just like that. The issue is that this can really create a vacuum leak and drive you crazy in trying to get your idle mixture screws to respond, kind of the carb may even try to hunt. But you can tell what happens is that there is corrosion that will show up. You can see it here on this one that I've got sitting out, and these passages right there are going to your idle passageways. What you can do, you can double up gaskets, or you can use some of this sealant here. I like this stuff because it's impervious to, get that in view there. It's impervious to fuel, and it does a great job. One other thing I probably have to say about this, just one more tip. These things do not like ethanol. Most carbs do not. You can say what you will, but ethanol and fuel will evaporate. And when it evaporates, it leaves deposits. There's so much vented here that this is a major problem. If you're using ethanol with these carburetors, you got to crank it up every week at least. Some guys like to run jets that are a little bit larger in these carburetors to just allow them to get a little bit more fuel. Ethanol, it could be a little bit lean, all that kind of thing, especially when your accelerator pump, you're trying to get a squirt of fuel in there. But now, guys, I don't claim to be an expert here. I've been fooling around with these carburetors for a long time, though, and kind of gotten into the details quite a bit. You can tell on my YouTube channel here, and then also on RodReverend.com. Quite a few posts and quite a bit of information about that. I do have some links here in the description for some other guys out there that are doing a great job. There is one guy I know doing a very good job in Michigan right now that can rebuild these carbs. He's kind of my go-to guy, especially on 2x4 setups, maybe the F-code setup and all of that. But stick around here on the channel. Glad you guys have joined us. Very few of us are into these Holley 4000s, as you can tell by the view count. But anyway, enjoy your time in the garage, and we'll see you guys on the next one.